If you're ever going to buy a resale HDB now or in the future, I highly recommend you save this video right now. Because the HDB website sucks and I get tons and tons of questions regarding this, and you can technically Google for information but you'll probably get more confused. So this is a kind of public service that I want to do to make the information readily available out there and as be clear as possible, and I'm going to do it once and for all for everyone so that everyone is really very clear about it. Hi, I'm Mark. I'm a property investor with 12 properties, and sometimes I act as an agent for people selling their HDB, and a lot of times when I'm selling the HDB, a lot of buyers actually come and they have a lot of questions and they ask like what is the procedure like, and some of them have like a wrong concept. So I hope this video is going to be really useful to all the HDB buyers out there, and it's going to be as clear as possible. So let's get started. Step number 1 is to go and apply for HFE, which stands for your HDB Flat Eligibility letter. Now, in order to get HFE, right, the website will ask you a few questions, right, to see whether you are even eligible to buy HDB or not. So things like who are you buying with, what kind of nucleus you're forming, your income, and so on. Now, it's really important because you don't want to waste your time viewing HDB, shortlisting HDBs, only to find out that actually, guess what? You're not eligible to buy HDB in the first place, right? And the same goes for like sellers, right? So every HDB seller wants to know that they are actually showing their house to potential buyers. And by that, I mean buyers who actually obtain a valid HFE letter. That also means that the letter actually has a fixed validity period. Alright, so you must complete your purchase within the validity period of your HFE letter. And that is also why that if you go to the HDB resale portal to look for a flat, right, you can only book a flat to view if you have a valid HFE letter. Number 2, after you receive your HFE letter, in it will say the loan that you have and some of the grants that you're going to be able to receive. So let's say you're gunning for $1 million flat and you realize that your HDB loan is $300,000 and maybe you're going to receive $100,000 in grant. That means you have a total of $400,000 there for you. And so if you're gunning for $1 million flat, you still have a gap of $600,000, which has to come from your cash or CPF. Now, not only that, you still have stamp duty. Calculate your finances because you're going to need more than $600,000. Now, in the case of a $1 million flat, the stamp duty is $24,600. So you need that extra as well from cash or CPF. So that would allow you to do a better budgeting to find out what flats you can really afford. Number 3, calculate how much cash you require, because a lot of times, right, cash is something that makes us feel the pinch a lot more, right? So a lot of times people ask, how much cash do I need to get started? Well, I'm going to quote you some basic figures first, and there are actually different situations. I'll talk you through that later on. In terms of procedure, usually the option fee is $1,000 in cash. This is a negotiable figure, but in the market rate, it's about $1,000, followed by $4,000 in cash to exercise the purchase. So that's $5,000 already. Now, as a buyer, you will pay $120 for the HDB valuer to go down, and then $80 later on when you submit the case to HDB. In all, it's $5,200 cash in the minimum. Just now the case, let's take a look at example. You are gunning for $1 million flat and you already have grants plus loan $400,000. So there's a balance $600,000. Of course, stamp duty aside, right? So $600,000. Now, the $5,000 you pay is part of the $600,000. So it means your balance now is $595,000. And if you have $595,000 in your CPF, congratulations, you don't need any more cash. That's all. If you don't have $595,000 CPF instead, let's say you only have $500,000 CPF, then there is another $95,000 cash that you need to come up with, because in the end, you need to come up $600,000. Now, also bear in mind, if you are going for a bank loan instead, the bank loan says the bare minimum cash you need to down pay is 5%. So, if you're going for the $1 million flat, yeah, you got to pay down at least 5%, which is $50,000 in cash. Again, the $5,000 you paid at the start is also part of the 5%. Now that we are done with budgeting, we can move on to step 4, which is to go shopping around for houses, and you can then make an offer to the house that you like. So I'm going to talk about this thing called Cash Over Valuation, or COV, and I'm going to talk about the procedure about it as well. Once again, let's say you're gunning for $1 million flat and you offered $1 million. You have to negotiate for the price first and write it down on a contract and $1 million, and then you're going to pay the $1,000 option fee first. Then you're going to pay $120 for the valuer to come down. And what happens if your agreed price was $1 million and the valuer says the flat is worth $900,000 instead? This is when cash over valuation, or COV, comes into the picture. If the valuer said it's worth $1 million, which is the same as your actual price, then fine, there's no COV. But anytime it is below $1 million, there will be COV involved. So let's say it is $900,000 valuation, but you agreed to pay $1 million. So what happens? Now you have two choices. One is you forfeit the $1,000, right? You just say, I'm not going to buy anymore. Now, if you choose to proceed and buy, what happens? Now, going back to the example just now, remember that you have a $600,000 down payment that you need to put in. Now, assume that you have $600,000 in CPF. Can you use all $600,000? The answer is no. Because now with the $100,000 cash over valuation, there will be $100,000 there by cash, mandatory, and then your CPF can only do the $500,000. That's the point of COV. Ultimately, you are still paying $1 million for the house. You're not paying anything extra, but it's just that that last $100,000 has to be done in cash. And tip number 5 here, before you actually jump into an offer, actually you should be thinking about the timeline. So from the day you decide to buy the HDB to the day you can collect the keys of the HDB, typically there's gonna be like a few steps and a few processing and everything. It's gonna take about 3 months. So think about whether this fits into your timeline, because if you're really urgent of a house, right, then 3 months might still be a long time. And there is something also known in the market as extension of stay. Now, extension of stay means at the end of the 3 months, right, you don't get the keys. Instead, the seller continues to stay there. And in the market, typically, sellers ask for 3 months extension period. And that means, right, from the day you buy, it's going to be 3 plus 3, it's going to be 6 months before you can collect the keys to your house and begin any form of renovation, etc. Once again, does 6 months fit into your timeline? You got to think about it. And if you cannot wait 6 months, then this house may not be suitable for you. You probably need to go to a house that does not require extension of stay. Now, during the extension of stay, bear in mind that the seller does not pay the buyer any rental. The seller typically will pay for their own utilities, their own Wi-Fi, because it's only fair they are staying there. The seller will also be paying or be responsible for the town council and the property tax. Now, going for HDB resale flat is one of the most popular things that people do because it's an affordable choice, and getting our dream home and getting a roof over our head is something that a lot of people aspire to. But more often than not, right, there's actually a little bit more of an investment element to it when I speak to people, because when you're getting a resale flat, knowing that it's resale, lease decay becomes an issue, right? So should you be going for older but bigger flat, or should you be going for a younger flat? Maybe a bit smaller, but you have many more years in the lease, right? So that would actually kind of protect the value of the flat. And of course, there are some people who want to take it a step further to find out flats that can actually appreciate in value over time. And also there are people who want to find out how to maximize the grants that they can have. And so whether a flat can make money for you becomes altogether another question. And for those who are really keen in investing, having a flat that has got like the least renovation cost required, right? Given that someone has already lived inside there for at least 5 years already, there's usually gonna be some renovation involved. But how can we find a flat that has got the least renovation required also becomes a science or an art, depends on how you see it. So if you have someone who is like very experienced in this field and you have someone who is trustable, go ahead, get his or her advice. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below and I'll try my best to answer them. And see you in the next video. Bye bye.